The Tax Collector is written and directed by David Ayer and stars Bobby Soto, Shia LaBeouf, and George Lopez, and among others. And this tells the story of these two enforcers that are basically they're what they're called tax collectors that work for a crime lord in L.A. And it
Basically, their job is to go around and uh, tax other gangs
yeah, they
and
work.
collect for their crime lord.
Yeah, a crime lord named Wizard that he goes by, and basically they collect his cut from local gangs and stuff. And then pretty much it becomes a competitive. It becomes competitive because the boss's old rival comes to Los Angeles for Mexico, and it pretty much becomes a rivalry that results with, well, if you forget from the trailers, it becomes where shit pretty much gets serious to a point where the odds are in their favor, so to speak. And it basically deals with Shia LaBeouf and Bobby Soto's characters that have to, try to either make the choice of either joining them or having to, as you see in a lot of gang type movies, have to basically work to survive. Yeah, go to war.
Yeah.
Now, now here's a little backstory. Now, I will admit I am actually a huge fan of David Ayer. I know that he's made some movies that aren't always the best in his filmography that a lot of people have seen. But I've always enjoyed him as a writer and as a director. And coming from his writing debut, when he started doing stuff like when he started out with Training Day and started getting into those gritty crime thrillers in the early 2000s stuff, I've always been a fan of the guy. And while I haven't fully watched a couple of his movies like Harsh Times or Street Kings, from what I've seen from others movies, I loved fucking Fury. I loved. I'm actually one of the few I didn't mind Sabotage, even though I had a lot of problems in parts. But I just like the guy's style. I like that he brings a lot of these gritty LA type movies to life, and his screenplay that he does with a lot of his movies, for the ones he directed, it shows that he puts a lot of compassion into the gritty lifestyle that goes along in LA.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of David Ayer. I like his style work. The guy who did Training Day, I forgot his name, Anton. Yeah, that guy is also known kind of like him and David Ayer work together a lot. So they kind of go hand in hand on their careers with these cop or this LA setting type of movies. And I like you said, he did like David Ayer did like Street Kings. I actually love that movie. That was a really, really good movie. In fact, that's kind of like if you took the Departed and put it into Training Day. That's basically what Street Kings was, and I love that movie. I like Sabotage. Yes, it had problems, but I thought Sabotage was a good movie.
I did too. Well, he also started out with U-571 was his first debut for written movie, but Training Day is what really got him on the map as far as like mainstream. Like that's what brought him into pretty much the big leagues, so to speak.
But he goes hand in hand with the other guy who pretty much likes to do cop movies that take place in L.A.
Yeah,
and it's funny. You pay attention to David Ayer and that other dude that helped directed Training Day. They like to also use the same kind of like Mexicans, so to speak, and you see him in a lot of their films. And there's that one, he's in a lot of films that he likes to go by Hector. And that guy's in this film as well. But and I saw the trailers to this, and what really grabbed me was Shia LaBeouf's, his character in the trailer. And, Shia LaBeouf, I felt like ever since Peter Butter Falcon from last year, I feel like, he's now taking his career very seriously. And I'm really interested to see what he'll give us in the future. And I'm glad he's taking different roles. I like that he wants to do more harsher roles like what he did in this film. And I will say that's what really grabbed me. And it looked like it was kind of going to go for that again, Training Day meets Street Kings type of level. So I was like, all right, I love it. For some reason, they could be very unoriginal, but for David Ayer, the way he does it, it just seems like every time he does the same shit. It just feels still like a really good movie.
Yeah. There's another one of his I've been meaning to check out, but that you saw that I still need to check out, which is End of Watch, which I heard was pretty good too.
End of Watch was very original, and it was kind of cool seeing, following two cops who, on a found footage level, like cops carry cameras, like the show Cops or Live PD, and I liked how he went with that approach, and that was a really hard film to watch, especially that ending. It's a pretty sad fucking ending, but
Yeah,
anyways, going back to this review, yeah, and then I started me and Justice, what it was like a week ago. Me and you saw it came out. Was it been a week or two?
It's been about a week that it came out ago. We were starting to see trailers a couple weeks ago when it was a few weeks ago when it was getting ready to come out, and I, like you were saying, I got really interested because it was cool seeing Shia LaBeouf take like a really gritty, type of, in a way, from the trailers. It was almost like he was a cross between the way he was kind of suited and stuff. It was like kind of a John Wick type role mixed in with I only saw pieces, but he's basically playing the equivalent of Christian Bale's character from Harsh Times, the way he falls in with Mexican culture and stuff. He's still
exactly. It's almost like maybe he kind of rebooted, so to speak, of Harsh Times. But anyways, I haven't seen that movie. I have to give that a watch sometime. It's one of the only few films I haven't seen by him. But yeah, and then the movie came out, and I started hearing rumors that this movie was really, really, really bad.
Yeah.
And that kind of concerned a little bit because that's David Ayer. Even his mediocre stuff can be just ranked like 50% or 60%. Looked it up, watched quite a few reviews, and a lot of people really said this is like his worst movie he's ever done. And I've seen like the scores, they're as low as 19%, 12%. I'm like, ooh, 0 stars out of 5, half a star out of 5. I was like, oh man, don't tell me it's that bad. So I was like, you know what? I'll go into this film on my own merits because honestly, this year I have been polar opposite of almost every fucking score this year. Like movies like The Wretched got like 8 out of 10, shit like that. So I'm really haven't been agreeing with audiences or critics, which I never agree with critics hardly. So I went in this, and with my own opinion, and upon seeing the film, I will say that I personally thought it was decent. I disagree with the score, and I disagree with a lot of people's reviews on this film.
Yeah, I agree. Like after upon seeing the movie and after knowing the negative feedback that I heard the movie had, and I'm going to say this in a polite way, it's how I felt with some of other David Ayer's films that honestly I honestly don't fucking get the hate for. This, Sabotage, and fucking even Bright, those are movies that are considered like his low points, and it's like, even though I personally like Suicide Squad, I'm just saying, as far as his other films that are, made that are more his more go-to, so to speak, I actually, defend those movies too. And this one's no the other exception because while it's not his best, it still wasn't that fucking bad. In fact, now if you would have maybe done
the movie does have its flaws, yes, but I mean, I'm hearing worst of this year. No. I'll defend that. There's no fucking way. This movie was decent. Yes, it's very unoriginal. So getting into the pros, I will say that the guy Bolo, who we follow, him and Shia LaBeouf especially, it was nice seeing him in something like this. Like I loved him, like I said, in Peanut Butter Falcon, where he was a really toned down, being a friend with a kid with Down syndrome, which was a heartwarming story. It was cool seeing him playing like a Training Day type of character, where he's going around as an enforcer, and he's pretty much referring to himself as the devil. And honestly, he's not over the top. He actually pulls this off really well. Yeah, he does try to play a Hispanic or kind of like a cholo type guy. That basically means Mexican American. They
pointed out
it slips at times where you hear him But overall, like his character itself is a fucking badass.
Well, yeah, I agree. Like I loved Shia LaBeouf's performance in this. I think that he did a great job for all the material was given for him. I do have some issues that I think that they kind of could have worked a lot better for his character with. That they could have really punched the script a lot better for when it called for it. And to defend his character, David Ayer did flat out say that he's not actually playing a Mexican. He's actually a white guy that's basically embraced by Mexican culture. So he's not actually playing a Mexican.
You know what? Now that if you put it that way, then it totally changes the perspective because you have people who like, guys who, you got people that love the black culture and they'll talk, the way how, certain blacks like to talk in the streets. I could see that because you do hear Shia LaBeouf trying to talk like he's, because he keeps calling him SA and come on, cabron, just saying some kind of mixing a little Spanish with his character. So I could see that him wanting to be with that culture. So he talks like that. But that main guy was actually surprisingly, really good. I was like, okay, I want to focus more on Shia LaBeouf because I really wanted to see him in a lead role. But since we didn't get that, and it's a disappointment a little bit for that aspect, the guy that we do follow, Bolo, I actually kind of really enjoyed his performance.
Yeah,
So
I thought Bobby Soto wasn't. I thought he was good. While he's I it's to me it's weird because like he's good, even though I still think that Shiloh steals a lot of scenes in the film over him in some ways. But that's just kind of more of like I'm not really used to the guy that well
yeah,
from what I've seen of him. But I'm just saying that he did a good performance. He was really good. He carried his own, and I think the really big standouts for me, the best personally, was both Shia LaBeouf and surprisingly, I haven't really seen a lot of stuff, but surprisingly, I even give credit to the guy that plays the main villain. I
yes,
thought he was menacing as fuck, but also George Lopez surprisingly, because I've only seen George Lopez in like a lot of comedies, and it's kind of cool seeing him playing a more serious route in this.
yeah, yeah. George Carlin's or George Carlin
Lopez.
is well known for his his TV show, stand up comedy. Pretty much that's it. And yeah, it was kind of cool seeing him because I thought he was going to play maybe I thought they were going to have like a comedic kind of comedy type of feel. Somebody give like funny lines, and as to my surprise, he actually plays part of the family, and he's a hard ass. And seeing him playing like a fucking tough motherfucker was kind of different, and it worked. Um, so yeah, I enjoyed his performance, and along with the others, worked really well. And it's funny because talk about your standard casting in these movies from David Ayer. Not only did we get the Hector guy for a split second as a cameo, but the black guy that plays in the lead of the Bloods, played a Blood in Training Day.
And that made me wonder if this was like a fucking crossover because when that guy showed up, I was like, I mean, I don't remember his character's name, but it was like, is he playing the same fucking character from Training Day? Like he's playing in that same gang?
Yeah. It is the same gang. That's what's really weird. And
I almost thought for a split second I was seeing Terry Crews in the background. I was like, hey, wait, I thought I saw Terry Crews for a second.
and you were right. You're correct on that. This villain is fucking mean. Was this guy fucking brutal?
Yeah.
Holy! This guy best describes what I liked of what they did with him is if you start talking about real life cartels and shit like this, this is what I picture right here. And this guy pulled it off really good. He is fucking and just off the walls brutal. Like there's scenes like where they're like he's worshiping some kind of like voodoo-ish god, and he has like his main hit girl bring this girl in, and they slit her fucking throat, and he just dances in her blood and shit, and like rubs himself in the girl's blood and all that. This movie
Mhm.
just fucking on the brutality. Another pro, the brutality is fucking crazy in this movie, and
Oh,
there's actually a vulnerable scene that actually I did not see coming, and it was fucked up, and
it
it's for one of
was.
them. I was like, what? And the way he did that person, I was like, man, that's fucking brutal. My
Yeah.
God, they don't hold back.
Yeah, that's David Ayer for you. I mean, he'll show you the fucking brutality like he did with Sabotage.
Yeah, that's what I love about David Ayer. Yeah, if you've seen Sabotage, if I remember correctly, that movie was on that same level on brutality, and it was a gruesome movie. This movie's on that. If you like that gruesome type of shit, which I do, then you're gonna love the gruesome shit in this film. It could
Yeah,
have had more, but what we were given was pretty fucking brutal. So
yeah, yeah. And I got to go back to that one guy real quick. The main villain. His name is
yeah,
if I'm pronouncing right, Conejo or Conejo. The guy's real life name is named Jose Conejo Martin, and so he actually goes by his character's by his nickname in real life. So I thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, yeah, but yeah, like you were saying, the fucking movie just oh man, there's like I'm not gonna just spoil anything, but let's just say there's a part where a fucking dude gets his head like going off on they're driving down the road in a van, and it gets fucking like almost half his face becomes Two Face. I'm like, fuck.
what I really liked about scenes like that is they didn't need to use CGI. I mean, the guy's fucking face was like torn off. You see his fucking tongue hanging out, his gums like ripped off, and like imagine your whole gums being torn off and hanging and shit. Like half his entire face, his eyeballs hanging out. I'm like, motherfucker, man. Jesus Christ Almighty. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
uh, when the shit hits the fan on the as far as the story, I'm like more hit and miss on it. While I do enjoy the story because the shit hits the fan and we the guys we're following, they're used to winning, being feared. Now they're not feared anymore and they're vulnerable, which I love that part of the story. But the actual plot plays out is pretty formulated that we've seen many times in these type of films. I'll get into cons on that a little bit, but uh, other
yeah.
than that, anything else you want to add on the pros?
Yeah, that's about how I feel about the story. Like it is very unoriginal because you kind of seeing how it plays out for a lot of these type of films, these gang type movies. Even though I still give a lot of credit because of the whole, it does push more the vulnerability and the gritty aspect that Ayer's known for. It really is no exception like it is his other films. But that leading into that does pretty much get into where we get with our cons. And I will say, yeah, one thing I can agree was that the movie needed a better punch with its script as far as storytelling because the way they built it up, you really could have showcased a lot more of what these guys were or could pretty much do. Not only give us more about who they were, like giving more like emphasis on Shia LaBeouf's character for one, but also they could have really put more of what Shia LaBeouf's character was known for and what the fucking how brutal he can actually be in the movie. Because I
Yeah,
feel that was a disappointment going in after seeing it.
yeah. Unfortunately, in the movie, yes, we're now in my cons. That is a problem with the fact that we get all right. You get the what's his name Soto
Bobby
or
Soto.
Bobby Soto. You get him, but then he's a badass himself. But really, Shia LaBeouf is supposed to be the more tougher guy. And we get backdrop scenes of shit he's done to people, like chainsawing people to pieces and shit like that, which are kind of just glimpses. But in present time, modern time, we don't really see him other than talking shit about like I'm the devil, look in my eyes, and you'll see there ain't nothing but death left. Just he's this badass, but yeah, we really don't get no character build up on any of that because I felt like David Ayer fucked up on this. He spent way too much time focusing on them collecting that it ate up half the movie. I mean, yeah, I get what you're doing. You're collecting the money, but do we really need? I mean, yeah, I thought something was going to pop off and we get to see like all these different types of gangs, but really, do we have to see the half of the movie like that? You wasted a lot of time, in my opinion, on that. So
Yeah.
that was an issue for me. And yeah, like we don't really get to see what our enforcers, how powerful they are, because really everybody is obeying the rules. I mean, there was a few times they pulled their gun out, and then I was kind of confused on Soto's characters because he starts out as a hard ass, but then later on he starts catching feelings, And to be in that type of where they're at, you can't have feelings in that type of level game. Like
Yeah.
when you're a enforcer, you can't. I mean, there's just no rules. Like you have one set rule, and if those people break it, and like there's a scene where a guy needed the money he needed for his kid's chemo, and to see Soto kind of soften up. I mean, some people might say that was kind of a heartwarming thing for him to do, but realistically, I mean, the guy's
Yeah,
an
that
enforcer. He softens later in the film.
yeah, there. If you wanted to take the more hard edge route, they should have done what you would do if it was like, for example, if it was compared to like say Ozark in that kind of level, where but if it's just as a movie, if you're going for a more realistic approach, you would have had to show more of what they're capable of. You can't just let someone just slide like that.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where the realism kind of nosedives.
Yeah. If you've seen kind of like in real life, like how that shit plays out, there's no soft side to any game. I mean, you don't show up the money, you're fucking dead. That's just like, it's mafia style shit. So, no different from, mobsters or the cartel. They're all the same when it comes to money. But yeah, they kind of got soft towards that end. And another thing that kind of bothered me was the fact that while there's a lot of fucking like massacring going throughout this film, it was weird seeing a film like this that didn't have fucking cops. Like,
Yeah,
the realistic point where like, okay, this whole building just got shot the fuck up. Where's the police at? And it felt like a very policeless movie. And it just kind of on a realistic standpoint, I was like, yeah, I don't know.
yeah, you would have. You really could have showed more of. You really logically, if I'm going by just logically, the cops would have showed up at any point of where these locations are. You know, and hell, there was even one point where cops were actually going to somewhere, but they end up passing right by them. I'm like, did they not? It's almost like, well, I know they're behind them and all, but it was like they could have, really spent more time pushing more of that. I like to see if what the cops' side of it would have take effect with it.
You can make a big ass movie. I felt like a problem with this film too, and it was kind of surprised from David Ayer, is how short it was and just to the point instead of building something big. Like, you could have had a mixture of what's going on, where you worry about what's going on with them, but then you got to worry about the cops too, and the detectives investigating it. Something like on par with the Departed. A mixture of all kinds of crazy shit going on once. Yes, that would have made a movie probably 2 hours and 30 minutes. But I mean, I think a movie like this would have done very well with 2 hours and 30 minutes. Seeing David Ayer do a movie that was only an hour and 30 minutes of this subject, that kind of bothered me a little bit. But I mean, it was good for what we were given, but there was so much I felt like they left out.
Yeah, there was like, yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, I haven't heard anything because this is now because David Ayer has had two movies in his filmography that unfortunately he didn't get much final cut with, Sabotage and Suicide Squad. So if there's a longer cut that he probably had in mind that they were probably going to go for, there's probably chunks of it missing. They probably could have added to maybe enhance the story. But from what we've heard, they haven't said anything about that. So I don't know. But it would be cool to see if they would have added more if they had a bigger story involved than what we got.
Yeah, and like I was saying earlier, it was a hit and miss. I've said in the pro part. This is a very formulated movie. Other than maybe a couple of shocking, sad scenes per se, I don't want to spoil who it is, what happens to the people. The film is so formulated. I knew where it was going. The direction was really just generic. I've seen it a lot. And another thing, really, honestly, when that guy is such a badass, that villain, I thought the ending was a little bit too rushed. Just a tad. This guy did pretty much. Example. There was a couple of things that bothered me at the third act, the final act. He goes to the Bloods because he needs help because pretty much his whole game, something. I'm not gonna. I don't want to spoil that part. But anyways, he goes to the Bloods and he asks the main dude from the training day we were talking about, and the guy helps him. And for one, I felt like that dude's lines got really cringy at the end because he kept referring to, "Let's go save your children. Let's go save your children. Let's go save your children." I heard that come out of his mouth like fucking 20 times in just
Yeah.
like 2 seconds. Like, we get it. We're fucking going to save the children. Why has he got to repeat that shit? And two, if this guy is, all powerful, mighty, badass, how the hell did this dude single-handedly stealth his way into what should have been an impenetrable villain and fucking kill him easy?
Yeah,
So
that was where I was like, okay, I understand there's a build up to that earlier, but you'd think for a guy as powerful as he is would probably have more than what he's capable of. I'll leave it at that because I'm not trying to avoid spoilers, but you just kind of makes you wonder, like, okay, this guy really could have probably had maybe a lot more than what he was capable of as far as like people around and shit.
exactly. So yeah, there ain't much I could elaborate on because I don't want to give everything away. I will say that I disagree with everybody's reviews, respectfully. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. I do not think it's nowhere near as bad as people are putting it out to be.
Yeah.
I it was actually a decent watch, even though we had flaws, the amount of flaws we brought
Mhm.
up. I felt like it was really watchable. So, with that being said, I almost wanted to give a compelling grade, but I was like, yeah, I saw a little bit more issues that are very important. So, that being said, I'm going to go ahead and give this film a high average Joe in the Film Phreeks meter.
Yeah, it's about what I expected to. A high average on the Film Phreeks meter. It's definitely not Ayer's best work, but I still thought it was a decent watch. And I I feel like yeah, I feel like the guy, he has some hits and misses as far as overall great movies, but I still am always down for the type of movies that he does with this. And hell, side note, I am actually kind of curious if they'll ever release his cut of Suicide Squad one day. So here's hoping. So for those of you who have also seen The Tax Collector, let us know in the comments below what you thought about it, and stay safe. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in our next review. We'll see you later.
Later.